What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Kickin' Bass TV. In last week's video, we talked about our top 5 spring bass baits. Today, going to be talking about how to break down your body of water, starting by identifying the type of fishery that you're on, what's in it, where the bass are moving to right now and why, and how you can use this information to get on a pattern and catch fish more consistently through the pre-spawn. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button down below. Let's go. All right, guys, today we're talking about the pre-spawn, which is essentially the time of year where bass start to move up into the shallows, where they not only look to take advantage of warmer temps and sunlight exposure, but will now start to establish their bedding area for the spawn. It's important to understand what type of fishery you're on, so we're gonna start by talking about the most common. Typical highland reservoir will have mostly clear water. Prey will be shad, crawfish, sunfish. Water will fluctuate between 10 and 20 feet. Dam will usually be constructed of concrete and used for power and irrigation, whereas a lowland reservoir will have stained to clear water. Prey will largely be panfish based, as well as craws and eels. Water will fluctuate between 2 to 8 feet. Dam is usually concrete and used for power as well as watershed. And for your hillland or flatland reservoir, water will be slightly off color. Prey will be largely panfish, craw, frogs, or eels. Water will fluctuate between 2 and 10 feet. Dam will be earth and primarily utilized for irrigation and flood control. One thing that's important, regardless of the type of water you're fishing, whether it's a large reservoir like this or you're on a smaller body of water like a local lake or pond, is to have a basic understanding of the topography or lay of the land, because that's going to give you a better chance of knowing when and where to look for bass during transitional times of year. Right now, they're seeking out shallow flats with maximum sunlight exposure, as well as areas where they can safely, more easily protect their beds during the spawn. Typically, that means moving back to these shallow fingers and coves from the main body of water, but they're not just going to show up there all at once. Just as they moved out to deep water during the fall to winter transition, they're going to be moving back in stages, and sometimes it can take up to 2 weeks depending on your local water temps, which ideally they like to be in the 50 to 55 degree range. So secondary points like this, where they have deep water access and can stage up for a few days, are great places and will play a key role in your success during the pre-spawn. Like I said, 50 to 55 degree is the key number. That's when they'll start to move up into the super shallow areas, and until then, this is where you want to look for them. To get there, they're going to be taking the path of least resistance, following contour lines and ledges to stay safe as an expressway to those shallow areas. That's when having a basic understanding of your lake's topography will help you understand how they're moving and more easily get on a pattern. While you can have success in the early morning during the spring, I typically like to fish between 9 and 11 after the sun's had a chance to warm things up a bit. That's also the best time to find them actively feeding in those shallow flats. Now, when it comes to fishing smaller bodies of water like your local lakes and ponds like we're on today, they're going to be relatively featureless for the most part, not have a lot of shallow fingers and coves that move way back that are going to be obvious landmarks for bass to move for the spawn. That's when I tend to target areas like our man-made structure, follow dams, rocky areas, whether they're concrete or earth and rock. They tend to be a great spot for bass moving in the pre-spawn period, because especially on a lake like this where we don't have a shad population, they're going to be primarily feeding, if not on bait fish like the perch and other panfish in here, usually on craw. And one of the main indicators, because most of the bass that we catch, including this one today, will have a lot of red pigment on the inside of their lips, and that's a dead indicator that one of their primary sources of food are craw. And whether I'm throwing a craw or something else like the spinnerbait that I have tied on here today, I'm generally working parallel to the dam, targeting those fish that are moving up super shallow, those hard packed flat surfaces that are starting to warm up earlier, making them ideal areas to bed down for the spawn. Also, this is where those fish that do feed on craw are going to be targeting those craw, waiting for them to pop out in the outskirts of these rocks along these man-made dams. For that reason, I tend to have the most success in these areas, particularly at smaller local lakes that don't have those features such as fingers and coves that would be obvious landmarks for those bass to move to. And that's one of the reasons why the spinnerbait made last week's top 5 spring bass bait video, because you have the advantage of drawing both a reaction bite as well as a feed bite. So hopefully today's video will help you guys get out there, catch more fish during the pre-spawn, more effectively be able to break down your local body of water. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, subscribe subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification to stay up to date with our new videos and giveaways. Until next time, I'm D with Kickin' Bass TV.
Subscribe.